Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley. This is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. I'm here today with Andrea Spacek. Welcome. Andrea was on the podcast previously. I'm going to put that in the show notes. It was a really amazing episode. And if you haven't listened, you can listen to this one first and listen after, but I really highly suggest you do. It's a very high vibration, beautiful energy, so much that we talked about in that podcast. If you're new to the podcast, I want to welcome you here. On the Feel Good Always podcast, we really are talking about the Great Awakening, the collective awakening, this higher energy that is coming onto the earth. It was born out of my daughter, Kara Bradley. She died at 15 years old. And although this was very tragic and sad, what happened is I was opened up to this really massive connection to her, everything, all beings. And this podcast is what I've been led to do as humanity wakes up. If you've been following along, thank you, because we all do this together. So in doing that, I have people here on the podcast, and Andrea, you've already been on back, and you really are a leader in this great awakening, this collective awakening. I surround myself with a lot of people that are doing this work, and you've been just a really great example for me of somebody that is living by all of these spiritual principles, who is actually living a really three-dimensional life. That doesn't always mean that it's easy, but being a guide for me, which I am so grateful for. And I could do podcast after podcast with you because there's so much wisdom that is coming through you. And so that's why I asked you to come back here so that you could share more wisdom as we all collectively begin to wake up and what that looks like. So before we get started, I just want to say a couple things about you, but I am just going to say, for anyone that's new that doesn't know you, you're a mother. You own multiple yoga studios. You facilitate international yoga retreats. You've done women's groups. You now are working with couples. But most of all, for me, you carry this beautiful energy, this frequency, and I can feel it now, of truth, and doing it anyways, and standing in your truth and paving the way for something that hasn't been done before, and maybe being criticized, having to be different, but really just trusting all of this divine stuff that is coming through, even when maybe people think you're crazy. I experience very similar things. Yeah, I experience the same thing where I have to trust what's coming through. And I'm just very grateful to have somebody walking side by side with me as we begin to say the things that we say. And if you listen to the last episode, we were talking about the Galactic Council of Light. We were talking about a soul that can incarnate in multiple bodies at the same time on Earth. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So if you haven't listened to that, you might want to. Today, we're going to talk about just what does it look like to wake up, and how can we help ourselves? Like, people are going to hear what they need to hear. If you found this podcast, it's not by accident. It's a frequency, it's a transmission, and it activates other people into this. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Amen. Amen about all of that, especially the frequency that we are like these little transmitters walking around, and a lot of us get caught up in, I know I do, what should I be doing? What should I be doing here?
Yeah.
That's so ingrained in us from a very early time, to be somebody. And I love, if you haven't seen Ram Dass's movie about becoming nobody, really powerful, because the spiritual journey is that. The awakening process is essentially coming to terms with that you have been doing that most of your life, trying to become somebody important. And as you wake up, you realize that it's really all about remembering that you're just a part of the bigger one that we all came from and where we all return. And we have our unique sparks and ways of, reflecting the light through us, like little prisms, I think of it as. But we're not, our significance of like what we do and the roles we play becomes less and less important. And that can be really disorienting. And I can say that it's really kind of sums up the last year of my life in my process of what we would call waking up, or I like to call integration from Jungian psychology. As you come to terms with that, I was trying to be somebody, and when I stopped doing that, climbing whatever ladder you're climbing to be more valuable in the eyes of society or your parents or your kids, or whoever it is you
For
place value in.
yourself.
We say it's ourselves, but I think a lot of it's deeper than that,
Yeah.
and it becomes, it's really just you and God, you and spirit. That's the only journey any of us are really on. And that can be, it's very confronting at first. It's also, wow, now what do I do with myself? Because a lot of us are propelled in our day-to-day lives by that myth of, I'm trying to be important or valuable, and so I have to get up and produce as much as I can, and da 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 da, go 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 go. And I don't want to make that wrong, but when that loses significance, everything kind of gets quiet, and you're left with a very deep question. So I would call it an existential crisis. A lot of people, this happens naturally around your midlife, which is where I'm at. And it's, I don't know, for me, it looked like a lot of time sitting on my couch, which I never ever did in my life. I never sat down and never could relax. I was always just felt this impulse to move. And then I realized, oh, that was anxiety. That wasn't purpose. That was anxiety moving me primarily. Of course, purpose is always at play. It's just always at play. So I've been sitting with that, literally. And I'm moving out of that space of just sitting and feeling the impact of letting your life really crumble, at least the one you thought you had or was living, and dealing with, the age-old question of like, beyond why am I here? It's just like, how do I want to live? How do I want to show up in the world? And I feel like I'm just now been starting to step into that and reinvent that. And it does happen in your daily life. There's like this mystical big hero's journey version of that, which I have always been obsessed with. And I'm in what shifted for me this year, just even a few months ago, really, was executing that myth into my day to day. Okay, what does this look like? So I love the question, because it's actually, I was just listening to this astrology about Pluto moving into Aquarius. It stays in a sign for a long time. It's at least 20 years. It's in a house. So the last 20 years it's been in Capricorn. It's moving to Aquarius. For me, that literally is my day-to-day life. So it's just so cool. And that's why I love astrology. One of the reasons is because I'll learn about this stuff after I'm already in the middle of this like big shift. And then I'm like, there it is. Next 20 years of my life. Like, things are just, I'm very clear. My life's going to look very different in a year from now. Like how I'm living, what it looks like, what I'm seeing in my environment, how I'm feeling in my body, which is exciting. It's also, you got to show up to it. You got to, I'm aware my psyche's like, ooh, it's, there's challenges.
When you say, yes, there's challenges.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, no, you said so much. And this is exactly how I envisioned, because I can hang on your words anytime that you speak. When you say like your life so crumbling, right, in the last year, and that you're coming out of that, do you want to speak any more to what that looks like? Only I say that for like people that are listening to, because I believe that we hear each other's stories and we find ourselves like a piece of it in there. And I know sometimes like my crumbling can look very quiet inside. It can be an internal thing that has nothing to do with the things that are happening in the outside world. But for you, what does that mean when you say your life kind of was crumbling?
Yeah. So, and this is my passion is sharing my journey. So I do everything that occurs in my life and everything that I face as a human being. My full alchemization of that and healing of that is to then go share about it. I believe that's for all of us true. And so I love to share the story as it evolves, because it's not rare, which is sad to me because it's extremely painful. And mine was the loss through divorce and the breaking up of my family, which I chose, which has its own level of pain and guilt and shame around. And I find I do work with women primarily in coaching, and that's always been kind of the people that would come to me would be women in moving in some kind of leaving a marriage or wanting to, and I could kind of see it coming before it happened. I was like, oh, that's gonna be me one day, isn't it? And also had a ton of women in my life ready to receive me who've taken that journey already with children. So you being one of them.
Yeah, I went through a divorce also, and it's a huge transition. And you're coming out of that, and like you said, I know just the being the person that makes the decision or the choice, even when it's good for you, because we have to also choose ourselves, that it can be hard. I know you've dealt with that.
And I've held the vision. I said to my husband at the time when we were signing our papers, I was like, it's going to be better for all of us. And I know that in my heart. And that's the only reason I can do this. What I didn't expect is that I would feel it's like I've been the last one to go. Like he's moved on. The kids are doing well. They still are dealing, of course, with, what they're dealing with of this split. But I've actually been the one who it's taken me a lot longer to process it. And
can you speak to I feel like we've talked about this, that it wasn't like right away, that when you decided to have the divorce, this really like realization of like this is happening. There's like this period right after where you're like, okay, I did that. And now, because I know that it maybe affected you even more like a year later.
it did.
Yeah.
And that's something also I mean, there was so much happening. I also bought Eastwind, right, months. So I got divorced in December, bought Eastwind in February.
And Eastwind is the yoga studios that you own.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
so two really big changes. So now you've
stepped
gone
into
through a divorce,
two
and then
busy studios that I was a teacher at for, a decade.
Yeah.
So all of those, I mean, there was so many pieces, and then becoming a single parent, I have a wonderful co-parent, but when I'm with them, I'm single parent,
Yeah.
and I'm juggling all the things. So all of that, and like, supporting myself for the first time. And these were all things that my soul wanted to experience. It was part of my agreement. And so I think, just running on adrenaline for that first year, just like, whoa. And so also proud of myself. You did it finally, because I thought about it for a long time. It was, just knowing something was out of alignment. And so there was all that. And then, and as a lot of people do, met someone, fell in love right away, and thought that was my person. And when that crashed, that was like, boom. I finally got to feel everything that I hadn't felt. And not just from the marriage, but my childhood, my teenage years, like it was like everything. And so that was the gift, but also excruciating, because so many times it's like I'm sitting alone in my house and I'm like, what the hell just happened? How did I let that happen? Kind of like taking that, like almost like dissociated for a while and coming back to like, whoa.
I'm sitting here. I used to be with my family on
Yeah.
a Thursday night,
And they're all
now
gone.
I'm by myself.
Yeah. Like
Yes.
that's really hard to swallow.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
this is when you and I,
And this is when
because my daughter dies. I mean, you and I had been friends before, but I believe it's right around this timing, somewhere around then, that you and I, we find each other. And we talked about that on the previous podcast, that Kira, my daughter Kira on the other side, had said that she sent us to each other at this time, because my heart was just broken wide open, obviously, and yours was too. And to heal each other, to be on this massive journey together, and to help walk through this. And it's so much bigger than our individual stories too. That's part of it, but it's bigger than Kira dying, and it's bigger than your divorce. But that's what helps us actually really, like, that suffering for me, I know, is what opened me up to more. And this great journey that we've been on, that also we're leading, there's a lot of people leading it. Many people listening to this podcast, they're leaders in their own way, but to keep going. And it doesn't come through for you, maybe staying in something that wasn't in alignment. Like you had to do this. And
I knew we couldn't, it was so clear that I kept hearing, your contract's complete. Your contract's complete. And if you don't release him from this, he's going to stay. And it was from the deepest love, because I love my ex-husband so much. I always will. He is a soulmate, and I chose him to raise kids with. None of it was a mistake.
Which makes it hard.
Which makes it challenging.
Which makes it hard when you're like, everything was good enough, but I still left anyways, and now I'm sitting by myself on a Thursday night, and
This is a lot harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But you were brave
but it
enough to
isn't.
do it.
It is, but it isn't. It's kind of like that. These little, I'm just going to pop back to the daily thing. Like these little things we do every day that it's like we're kind of hobbling a little bit with these little changes we refuse to make. And it's picking the short term discomfort of making the change or the long term discomfort of being out of alignment and slightly crooked, right? Which eventually leads to a crooked back. And then you can't, it's like bigger problems. And that's, a lot of like we're all dealing with that, these choices of, I know this isn't really going where I want it to take me, but I just think we just have to be really done, whether it's a habit or an addiction or a relationship. I think we need to sometimes rip the Band-Aid, and sometimes it's just like life does eventually something's gonna end it, right? But anyway, I did make that choice. And after that, it sent me on 3 significant healing retreats. So I traveled. I learned a lot of things about some universal things I noticed with women after divorce, after a loss. And one of the things we do is we travel. I thought it was interesting. Women, it's like more about, I think a lot of times we leave because aside from extreme abuse and stuff like that, I think we leave a marriage because we're feeling like we can't expand within it or we feel really alone in it. And we're like, if I'm going to be alone, I might as well just really be alone and be with my, live the life I want. And I think travel is such a powerful way of opening up your world and seeing how you are outside of the norm. It's like, who am I beyond my roles, beyond being a mother, beyond being a wife? And it's really hard to know that part of me leaving my marriage was about who am I, like outside of this marriage. I've kind of let this, him play this role and I play this role. And it was just too hard to shift it within it, like, which essentially is like, you're the dad, you do everything. And I don't really have to show up as much, in certain ways. And my soul was like, that's not enough for you. You're so powerful. Like you need to feel that. I want you to feel that while you're here in this body. So anyway, travel. And those looked like healing retreats. One to Egypt, which was the most transformative, which is right when I met you, I was about to go.
We didn't meet, but we connected. I mean, we
met
years before.
Met again.
But we met again. Our relationship, that what we're doing now, which is day to day, doing life together, really just trying to make sense of all of the massive, beautiful energy and really hard stuff that's coming through. When we're side by side having massive awakenings, you're in Egypt and I was having my own here. And that's...
You're like, I don't need to go anywhere.
I didn't need to, but I did. And
we'll
speak to Kira. My daughter Kira was sending me places. The first place was Hawaii, and this was 6 months after she died. And what you're talking about is traveling. I was also being asked, but how do you go travel without your child? How do you do that? And I did not want to go. And really, basically, I got so many signs and connections around it and kept saying no. And literally, I finally looked up. There were so many signs. I looked up the Airbnbs in Hawaii, and it was $6,500 to take my family. And I was like, I won't pay that because I don't want to spend that kind of money to be miserable. And the next day I had a check in the mail for $7,000 from a mortgage refund from 2012. So I basically was sent there. And that begins, side by side, what you're talking about, travel. I have never traveled so much in my life as I have since Kira died. And I was traveling a lot before this. I was traveling at least 70 days a year before that. And now it's been more. So, but I had to get going, and I did get help from Kira to go because, like you're saying, it's like when I can leave where I'm at, I'm open to seeing more. When I'm not in my seeing the same things that I see in my town, playing the same role. I saw that when I traveled to Hawaii, and then I've gone all over the place, side by side with you, gone on retreats, gone to Costa Rica, Sedona, all over the place.
Yeah.
So I know you went on 3 really, well, the Egypt one was super.
That was the biggest one. Is incredible. And we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, and so I won't get into it, but that was when I came back from that trip. That was when I came back and I was like, I didn't really know what to do with myself. I just kind of went blank. I was like, oh, I don't feel that anxiety bunny inside anymore. So I don't really feel like pushing myself right now. And it was, a combination always a combination of burnout. And I had a huge year before that. But it was also a lot of things happened in Egypt.
And a lot of things happened when you came back. I mean, we went to Joshua Tree. We had a lot
it
of
didn't
things.
stop. They didn't stop happening.
Everything
that
there
year.
was so much happening.
Yeah.
Energetically. I mean, the level of frequency and signs and connection were hundreds a day.
High. It was so high. And then I went to Peru. I was called to Peru on a medicine retreat. And then after that, our last podcast, I had just gotten back from my last one, which was France. And that was a Magdalene retreat. And none of those were things I was plotting to do. They all came to me and I knew it was for me. I feel after the France trip, since that with the healing retreats, I was shown it's time to lead them now. Right now, travel is more for just to really get out of my hamster wheel. I love to travel with my kids because when I'm home, I'm so work oriented. I'm always like, I can't help myself if I'm in my house. I'm always going to try to be doing something. So I make conscious time to stop, but it's better when we travel. We can just really drop in and be more in play, which is my word for the year is play.
I love that.
Yeah, because I feel the heavy lifting of, the grief continues, but the heavy lifting of really deep inner work. Again, with me, it never stops, but I felt a shift. I felt a shift out of that. It's like, okay, we're moving forward now. And a recognition that a part of me was hanging on to the past in a big way and looking back and did I do the right, was that the right? And maybe, and what if, and all that stuff, which I think is normal until you move on, meet another person, all that stuff.
It's like that transition phase of we can trust that our life is leading us or where we're supposed to go, but it doesn't mean that it's comfortable.
No.
And you could second guess whether or not it was the right choice and all of that. In any decision, really, we can do that. So when you talk about travel, so you did these healing retreats, you have been hosting and leading retreats for a very long time.
Yeah.
Already. So you were already doing that. I know that we both ended up in Sedona. I was not on your retreat, but of course we ended up at the same time. The timing of it, you were leading a retreat in Sedona and I was there with my daughter, Maddie. And you've done stuff in Shasta. And so lots of retreats.
Yeah. I took a break after COVID and then bought the business. So I just started again this past year, but have always done some kind of more local retreat in California. And now I'm moving more international. Costa Rica will be the first international one. I've co-led them and I was one of the teachers, but I didn't have to organize it or anything. So
yeah, so you and I are leading a retreat in Costa Rica, which is just amazing. I say it's amazing because we were shown.
Yeah.
We were both simultaneously. A lot of times what will happen with us, I'm just saying for anyone that's listening, is that I will get a message, a download about something, and you will also, and then we're getting it at the same time. We're hearing the same thing at the same time. So now we are leading a retreat in Costa Rica in July of 2026, which I've been to Costa Rica a lot, and there's so much happening there. The frequency is very high, the energy. And not only to share, like kind of what has been, share this with other people, share Costa Rica, share the frequency, Pura Vida, share like on that retreat. It's not just about practicing yoga or breath work or sitting at this resort time, although the resort that we're going to, the Bodhi Tree Resort, is absolutely beautiful. I stayed there. Same thing. I was with somebody on another retreat a year ago and I've got to know people in that town, locals. And so really like immersing the people that go with us into that local community and the people that you meet from all over the world.
That's what
the difference is seeing myself and meeting people in different perspectives and really finding the people that are on this, for me, this high energy. I call it like the 144, the forerunners. They find me everywhere as they find you. And there's a lot of them in Costa Rica. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing that with people. And which leads me not just the travel, but also the breath work, which is what we're it'll be a piece of what we do in Costa Rica. And I'm going to be talking about this breath work more on this podcast, this conscious breath work practice that you and I have both found together, and that I feel like is massively transformational. I think, we can practice yoga. You don't have to be someone who practices yoga to go on these retreats. It's not
even I'm a focus on my retreats anymore. And it's funny, people might think that because I own a yoga studio and I've taught for 20 years. It ends up being more about like somatic release movement, just moving your body every day, connecting with nature, getting out in a different, environment, going on little adventures, and really just having time to take in pleasure and joy and freedom. And that's a big energy that I feel from Costa Rica is freedom. I always feel very free when I'm there. It's just like you kind of can do whatever you want, within reason, that I feel more inhibited here.
And it's also about the people.
Well, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I say that for anybody that's listening because it is always the people everywhere. Yeah. Even this podcast. I mean, we just got here. I'm talking to the guys here at Live Action Music, which sometimes I'm like, I could literally just be recording.
You just come here to hang out with them.
I really do. I really do. That we meet each other. We meet each other. It doesn't matter where. It could be in the job. It could be traveling. But really, when you do a retreat with people like this, or a yoga teacher training, or anything that we do, when we show up, all of those people were always going to be there. And it's such a beautiful container to meet certain people. And I always am excited about who it is that I'm going to meet, and to just really be in that beautiful container together. And that part is a huge part. I'm always about the people. And really, for me, this retreat showing people Costa Rica, because it's just been such an amazing place for me, so healing and opening and activating people, because that is part of what the role is here. My role and your role too is this really higher,
we're activators.
Yeah, this higher dimensional, I don't like to say higher or lower, but that's just the words of this frequency, is where there is more connection. It is where there's more feel good always. The only reason that I began to understand that I was an activator is that people would tell me once they started talking to me, they would start seeing more, experiencing more. A lot of people, every week that I release an episode, I have people texting me saying, I was listening to your podcast, and as you said the word peace, I saw a sign. And then they just start seeing signs. I mean, I have a handful of people every single week that are, and that's just the people that are messaging me that have my phone number. So it's how do you explain that? Because it's a frequency. Just listening to this podcast is activating you into this higher consciousness that we are all moving into. And that is what this specific retreat is about, but also the breath work. So the breath work practice that we've been doing is a conscious breath work practice. I've been doing it for 5 years. I started in 2021. And, you and I are now facilitating that together locally in groups. And we'll also be doing that in Costa Rica. And it's called holotropic breath, but I feel like it is such a huge part of what we're doing here. It's this beautiful way to open myself up, to move my ego aside, allow what needs to move through my body, and just trusting my body. And that I was given this tool back in 2021. Before Kira died, I started practicing this breath work, and it was one of those things that it just kind of showed up. My friend Elizabeth, I meet Elizabeth a week before I end up in breath work. We kind of talked for 45 minutes the first time we meet. I end up in breath work, and there she is. Of course she's there. And it was like, of course she's here, because I had just like really connected with her. There begins my journey of breathwork, where I'm having all of these really amazing experiences of moving childhood stuff. And I connected to my grandma and my cousin that are on the other side. I didn't know nothing about this. I really just didn't. I was having some pretty massive crying, screaming, really just this release afterwards. And then fast forward a couple years later, her dies. And my friend Elizabeth was there to be able to do one-on-one breath work with me, because I wasn't ready to do it in a group. And Elizabeth does this with me. And it was such a beautiful way to move my grief out of my body, to connect to Kira because I did that. I saw some past life stuff, so much. There's really just not words to explain the experience. So I continued to practice this breath work. It was the most transformational healing practice that I was able to do after Kira died. And I did a lot of practices, and I still do a lot of things, but it's the most transformational. And so, which leads me to, you and I are both doing it, and I want you to tell your story, but I just want to finish this part, that what I envisioned and saw, because I see things, I know things, is that this breath work specifically is going to spread like yoga, well, like we've watched yoga spread as we've been practicing for many, many years. We've watched it go more mainstream. This breathwork practice will be the same thing, breathwork, because people are being brought to their knees. And when you are brought to your knees through suffering, there has to be, something to release that. Like eventually it's got to release. And it's that, and it's also this higher energy that's coming onto the earth. The body is processing all of this. And this breath work also helps that. It helps the body. And so I saw my friend Elizabeth doing this, and I introduced her to you. She starts doing it at your yoga studio. She was doing it monthly. And, I got this download in meditation that I needed to get trained to do it, which didn't make sense because this was this was Elizabeth's piece. Because like you said, we all have our pieces. I'm doing this, you're doing that. Everyone that's listening has their piece. So when I heard this, I was like, wait, I'm supposed to be doing this? Okay. But I trust what I hear. And you simultaneously got the same thing, that you were supposed to be doing this. And so we both came to each other.
Specifically, I saw you doing it with me too.
Yeah, that we were going to be doing it together, which was very interesting because it was Elizabeth and she was doing it, and we talked about it, and you said, I don't know, I will have to talk to Elizabeth about it because I just see that we're supposed to do this. So you and I do this, and then it was probably it was our second week of training that Elizabeth died. She died by suicide, and it was, of course, one of those confirmations. One, of course, that's why I saw that. That's why you saw it, because Elizabeth wasn't going to be here physically to be able to lead these. I was not surprised by that. Of course, it was very sad for me. And also that processing Elizabeth's death, and the next day being right there in a training with her, Jay Bradley is the one that is training us, and he was Elizabeth's teacher. The beauty of all of that and the sadness, and I could feel her right here, right now, because she's still in everything, right? She was still going to be the biggest part of it and lead, and she still pushes us to do all kinds of things. And that I got to do breath work to even, help me walk through her death, her physical death, because I am very much energetically connected to her. She's very much a huge part of my life here on earth. And now that she's on the other side helping. But that is a big part of this story, as now you and I are moving into facilitating this locally, and also we'll be doing it on the retreat. That it's a big part of our story, and it's been continuously transformational for me as I'm in a body, but I have an amazing amount of light coming through me. And this breath work really helps, it helps show me where to go. It helps my body process things, and watching the transformations happening for everybody else. So all of that being said, I would love for you to share your experience with this breath work, and, what all of your experience that kind of happened side by side with mine.
Yeah. My first big breathwork session, holotropic breathwork session, was at Fit for Service in Sedona 2023. And that was the year I left, moved out. Remember, I drove out there by myself, signed myself up for this wild ass program that I was like, I'm supposed to be there. And we went through a series of all these different initiatory passage, like rites of passage. That was like how they set it up for this 5-day retreat. One of them was holotropic breath work, or they called it shamanic breath work. And there was 50 of us in a room. We had multiple guides, and I, like you, done all the things, plant medicine included. And I never had such a powerful release, like screaming, like really intense, like shaking and childhood stuff. And I was like, well, that's something I'm going to do in the future. Like I just knew it at the time. Like I'm going to facilitate that at some point. Anything that moves me that much, I want to share. And then I didn't practice it actively on my own. It was something that like just left a big imprint. And it probably wasn't until a year or so later that I did it again. And Elizabeth coming to the studio, then I got an opportunity last year to do it, and a couple other times, other places. But for me, it's been the biggest tool moving through grief this year. Not just feeling it, but actually moving through. And that's what I think distinguishes it for me in relationship to plant medicine, whether it's ayahuasca or mushrooms or whatever. I was able to process a lot with those tools, but I didn't see the significant shift afterwards. What I noticed with breathwork is I felt it's like feeling everything, whatever is just really there. And then going through all these different dimensions of understanding, not just, way beyond myself as a human being to a universal mind place. And when I would leave, I've things were different afterwards. And that's why I'm such a big proponent of it. And I want to share it because I think it's real shift. And you don't have to rely on an outside source. Like we both do this on our own now. And you can initiate it with yourself, 45 minutes, however, even 20 minutes of active holotropic breath work. You're going to have a shift. Last night, I did a session with myself, and there are times where I was getting frustrated because I wasn't feeling a whole lot. But what I dropped into, and part of this is through my Tantra training I've been in with Layla Martin, a lot of it is about the breath, like we did in the beginning, in and out through the mouth. But she does these just fluid, circular breathing in and out through your mouth. So they're not necessarily fast. So I ended up dropping into that after a while. And felt what that offered me, which was just total peace and ease and well-being in my body. So I mention that because it's just the breath period is our most powerful tool we're given to use, and it's highly underutilized. And what's exciting, like you said, it is spreading like wildfire, this remembrance of, oh my God, it's right here. We have it right here. We just have to keep breathing. We just have to use it. Right. And where I started earlier was like, I love that I get to spend most of my time talking to people about remember to breathe. I'm talking to myself all the time, of course. Like anything I teach, it's for me, right? It's for me because I want to live remembering these truths. So it's so beautiful because you can take it from something that's really pretty vigorous and extreme and can be really challenging. But even if someone came to our breath work and it was too intense to do the, which is what it is. If you're not familiar, you could just that the whole time, you're still going to have an amazing, powerful experience because I guarantee you're not doing that in your daily life. You're not spending 45 minutes breathing intentionally.
Yeah, not that conscious. And what we're calling it breath work for freedom, but really it's a conscious breath work practice. And what happens, we are intentional about doing the breath, but about 5 to 7 minutes in, the body just kind of takes over and we get shown what we need to be shown, what moves needs to move, where instead of us trying to be in control of it, it just happens. And for me, I have had so many different things. I never know what's going to come or what needs to be released because sometimes we don't know what needs to go because a lot of times we don't know what needs to go, or people can have crying, screaming, sadness release, people can have orgasmic experiences, people can be laughing, people dancing, moving around, moving their arms around. It's just a beauty, and it's always different, and you can experience nothingness, just absolute nothing. So like you said, it's amazing because of so there's plant medicine and then there's the breath that this has been referred to, that it's what we already have inside of our bodies. We actually can take ourselves to altered states of consciousness, not to escape, because we can do that too with altered states of consciousness. But we can take ourselves to altered states of consciousness with the tools that are already within us, which is our breath. We actually don't need plant medicine. Now, I'm not saying if you have an intuitive hit to do ayahuasca or psilocybin, then do that too. I'm just saying with this breath practice, you can actually come out and control your experience in the sense of you can't, if you're doing psilocybin or ayahuasca, just come out. This is your own breath can be the facilitation of this experience. And it's interesting. My husband, Mike, had just had an experience where I kind of said exactly what I just said, that you could come out, that he felt kind of like he couldn't come out, which was
interesting.
We talked about it after. He said, I felt like I kind of couldn't come out, but it was fine because his body and another part of himself had taken over to help him have that experience. That it wasn't that he didn't really need to come out. And it wasn't like a scary feeling of he couldn't come out, but it is.
I remember feeling that way.
The constant message that I receive from these divine beings that are helping us, really it's our higher selves, it's humanity moving into this collective awakening. It is done. I experience this beautiful feel good always energy is we don't need anything, but we were given, our DNA is being upgraded, this light, we really can use all the tools we have in our bodies for all of this. I don't need crystals or oracle cards or Palo Santo. Really, I don't. That doesn't mean that I can't use those things, but the breath is something that it's life force.
You can self-initiate and it's self-activating.
Yeah.
And that there's nothing more powerful than that. So it's exciting that it's becoming big and that it's, I love that I have a lot of different tools with it, ways of moving with the breath, which is really the foundation of yoga. I mean, that is yoga, is understanding how to direct your prana. Okay. How do we do this? We have this vehicle, we have this life force, we have breath. How do we use that in a way that can affect our reality, right? Can affect how we're experiencing reality. And I mean, it's funny that most of us are aware of this. This isn't like a secret. And yet there's still resistance. There's still so much resistance.
I was going to ask you that because how you would speak to that, because
I mean, I'm like, I won't sit down and freaking do it.
That's why it's good to do it in a group.
And that's why groups are great.
That is why it's good to do it in a group.
It's easy to tap out. I don't feel like doing this. I'm going to
Yeah. And that's why even for myself, like, yes, I could do it on my own. And I felt like even this breathwork training, it was like perfect timing, perfect place for me to be in breathwork the day after, I find out about Elizabeth, to be there, to be able to move that through, to also be able to connect with her because she was right there in the music, every song, all of these signs and connections, that it's in that perfect place. That would I have, done it that day? No, I wouldn't have. I have to, being in a group setting will help me actually do it, and doing it with other people, and the people that are doing it. It's amazing. It's really beautiful. And we've seen some really amazing transformations.
I think we're literally breathing through the ascension of human consciousness on the planet. I mean, that's what I feel when I'm in the room. Is those are labor pains when people are screaming. This is us releasing all the bullshit of how that we need to suffer so much here, that it has to be so hard, and it has to be that we have to carry so much on our own. And I mean, my prayer for particularly America, our rugged individualism, that we can realize how much it's not serving us as a collective to try to freaking do everything on our own, and to really feel like we have permission to do less, to be more, to connect more, to be more vulnerable. I mean, this is and all I can do is work on myself. That's all any of us can do. That's what I'm spending most of my time is, how do I change the way that I do things so there's more ease, there's more pleasure, there's more joy in all of it, because it's so easy to just swallow the narrative that it has to be hard and you have to self-sacrifice your precious energy for, some, maybe like whether it's your boss or whatever it is you think
Whatever
it's
you
for,
told yourself to be the perfect mother, so your kids
Yeah.
are all involved in all the perfect things.
The
There's
myths.
all kinds of things that we should continue to question, really to question everything. And that this type of work, working on ourselves, I always say it starts with us. It starts with take care of yourself first, and then go on from there. And you were talking about play and pleasure, which this breathwork practice does give me that freedom, in the sense of lots of the things I do. I talk about a lot of this stuff on this podcast, but this podcast is Feel Good Always, and feel is in all caps. And Kira came up with a name. It's through feeling, because when I'm brave enough to feel to the absolute depths of my soul, which Kira dying, I did that without breathwork. Not everybody has to experience that depth. I did that without distracting myself, walk through the pain, and I will do that every day. I will allow myself to feel the pain. And I do believe that as a society, as a culture, we don't want to feel. I've seen it, especially with Kara dying. How many people wanted to, take me for a walk or try to fix me so that I make them uncomfortable because my child died. And that's okay. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying my freedom comes from feeling. It comes from feeling. And that is partially what this podcast is about, what my big message, what I believe the Great Awakening, this collective consciousness, we have to feel it. We cannot skip that part. You cannot completely just wake up and look at some 26 is going to be better. It's like, you have to stay present in this moment, be willing to feel. And I can just say, when you show yourself, which I've proved to myself, that I can live through my feelings. I mean, there were times when I thought I couldn't over my lifetime, and I drank to numb them, or I ran 10 miles, or I kept so busy that I didn't have a minute to look at my life. I've done all those things too. Yeah. I've done all those things. And like I said, humanity is being woken up where there's not enough room to do anything else. You've tried all the things of numbing out, and it's just not going to work anymore. That's what I'm seeing. People, that's why these yoga studios are filled up. That's why we're seeing this wellness thing take off, because people need it, because it's just, there's no hiding anymore. And so my message is to anybody that will hear it, just feel. You will survive your feelings. Yeah. You will. I promise you. I've experienced it. And through surviving it, it's expanded me to feel everything, to feel the connection to everything and everyone, every sentient being, which is, there are no words for that experience. And through this breath work, that beautiful, safe container of showing up in a space to feel, to have you helping, or, for me, it was Elizabeth, to help, to have her hold that space where I could feel safe, to feel all of these things, whatever needed to come up. On the other side of that, the freedom is just that you could do so much. And there's not words for it.
Yeah, everything's possible.
But if anybody is listening, what I'm saying is, you already are brave. If you're listening to these podcasts, if you're already on this journey, that you can feel more. If it feels like it might be too intense, what we're talking about, just know that you can feel to the depths of your soul, even if it's anxiety and a panic attack. We will survive. Yeah. But this is in a safe setting, where you have really just even the frequency of you and I, or if you're going with somebody, having somebody in a safe container to feel. And I believe that's going to save humanity, is our willingness to feel. Our willingness to feel it all and open up to more. And I'm just so grateful that this practice found me among all of the other things. And now you and I are doing this together. And I'm just like, I feel like when I found yoga, but it's so much bigger than that, because now I have just massively woken up. Woke up then years ago when I found yoga, but this is all very, very different. It's massive. I just feel like I see it happening already. And I get really excited about it. to share it because it's absolutely transformational. And right away. It's right away. It's not like, you'll keep doing it and I keep doing it too, but it's so transformational. But you have to be willing, and I get that it's intense. And so we're offering that. I mean, but other people are listening. You could look up holotropic breath in your area. Jay Bradley, he also does
in
it.
LA.
He does it in LA, and he also does it online. Zoom. And maybe you and I will do it online. Who knows? We're being asked to do a lot of things, and I'm so grateful to do this work with you.
Me too. Yeah. Because it's fun. You got to find people that it's easy alignment where you both it's just known. You're both on the same page. There's a mutual respect and there's just a flow. That kind of energy creates this beautiful synergy that just expands whatever you're doing. So that is part of the New Earth is collaboration.
And with you, what I love is it's for the greater good. Yeah. There's no attachment to mine or yours or anything like that. It's like, what can I do to help? And we do that together. And I love that. It's like this podcast. I'm just doing it for the greater good. And I know lots of people that I'm surrounded with are doing that same thing where we're not competing here. We're just trying to help as many people as possible. And I love that we get to do that together.
And that's life-giving. And I think, if anything, this is a year of the one. We just completed a 9. Everyone knows probably ad nauseum year of the snake, which is still like 1 more month until that's fully complete in the Chinese calendar. And we get the fire horse. And that's year of the 1 is about alignment. It's all about self, getting back in. We're setting up a foundation for the next 9 years of what we're creating, who we're becoming. And so it's worthwhile slowing down. And I keep hearing that. Go slow to build, the slower and more meticulous we are about setting ourselves up at a foundational level. And it happens in the daily. It happens in the daily practices. The more I just feel that wildfire can take off because you've set the foundation and you'll be able to hold it.
And then it builds and builds.
Yeah. So it keeps growing.
For me and for you, we've been building these foundations for a very long time. But building that foundation, taking off, building more foundation, and that capacity to do more, but it doesn't feel like more. And I always take care of myself. But yes, it's those daily practices, looking at where my energy is going and really trusting myself. And that I take a look around and this is what I'm doing 100% of the time. And I feel really, really peaceful. And that's a good indicator to me how things are going.
Yeah, the best indicator is your level of inner peace as you go. Yeah, I love that reflection because I feel that too. And that has not been true. That has not been true in the last particularly couple years. So to feel, sometimes I forget to celebrate that because it's gotten so quiet inside of myself that sometimes I'm like, nothing's happening, Yes. That old, roller coaster ride of like,
that's
woo.
A good thing to talk about for people that are listening too, because when you're on this journey, what happens is you start to experience peace. And if you're not used to it, it feels boring. It's like, wait, and then you get used to it. And then you're like, oh, I like peace. I really like this feeling. Because I like you, I had to drink wine to chill myself out at the end of the night, or all the things I named earlier. And then I started to practice and feel more and more peace. And then anytime I'm kind of out or or not peaceful, just a tiny, tiny bit, I feel it because it's a new energy. And so I do live in peace. And that does not mean that I don't cry. That doesn't mean that when my daughter died, I didn't, it wasn't very peaceful, but it was peaceful in the sense that I wasn't dealing with resentment towards other people, wishing people were different than who they are, mad at the world, why me, victim, all of those things, which are totally fine if that's what people experience. I did not have any room for any of that. And I had all these practices in place at that time so that I could go through something really hard, because we will experience hard things. We will lose everything and everyone.
Yeah.
Everything isn't permanent. I just experienced it, in a very, traumatic way. I don't even like to use that word, but that we can find peace, and that maybe it feels boring, but it's okay. It's You get used to it. And then
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful for that peace. And when I'm out of alignment, I feel it pretty quick.
It's intolerable at this point, and that there's things that, and there's still things in my life that will need to change. Yeah, I'm already aware. And I've learned to let that also unravel on its own. We don't always have to be like Kali with the swords, like, "Oh, I don't like that, I don't like that, I like that." There's a certain commitment I have to staying with things that are not comfortable longer than I want to, because I've grown a lot through that. I am so common rooted in all the many things that are going on that could be potentially stressful because of that practice. Because I used to be, like, I don't like this, I'm out. Like, that means it's wrong, it's bad, instead of, that's uncomfortable, but I don't have to do anything right now.
Like being curious.
Yeah. Just that impulse to run or destroy the thing that's bothering me. Actually, yeah, leaning towards curiosity. If it's a person, it's like, oh, wow, you're really triggering me. I wonder what that's part of me that's poking at, part of me that hasn't had a voice probably or whatever. And sometimes it's months, sometimes it's hours, sometimes it's days until it's like, oh, that's what that was. But there's usually nothing to do about it. It's just coming into your fields, just like the weather. And you can just, sometimes you need a rain jacket, right? Sometimes you can choose to go inside. You don't have to deal with it head on, but you also don't have to let it throw you off so much. And I used to let a lot of things throw me off, like big time, and take it on like I'm doing something wrong if I'm not feeling that, like,
oh, I do
feeling
know.
amazing.
The thing is, yeah, I do know.
It's like, no, maybe you're not doing anything wrong. Maybe this is just for you. Everything's for you.
Maybe it's what it means to be human.
Yeah.
I mean, we do feel peace, but yes, just because we feel off or sad or, maybe a little depressed or anxious does not mean that we did something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's that's being able to sit with what's happening and listen to yourself and all of that. Yeah. So I could sit here and talk to you for hours and hours, and we will after this.
I know. That feels good, though.
Yeah, I know. It's so good. But I want to just, as we wrap up, you just really to speak to two more things. One is anyone that's listening, you speak about these daily practices, what people can do to feel good, to feel this peace. And then also, I've asked you before, but I'll ask you again, because it's always changing and there's so many meanings of what feel good always means to you.
Cool. So I have a short list of things that they're non-negotiables. Drinking a certain amount of water every day, which is like these 3 big jars. So I make it a point. I start with just drinking one big one when I wake up, and I do 2 more throughout the day. When I drink water, I feel better, period. Getting outside every day. Doesn't matter if it's for 5 minutes or an hour. Having some type of unstructured time in my day where I just get to goof off or not be productive. That's challenging to me, or it has been, and I find it really life-giving. And yeah, pick up the phone. Yeah, that's a practice. It is a practice, and I've gotten so much better at it. Just pick up the phone, because every time I feel so much better after talking to a friend or a loved one, and I can put it off. It's like, I don't have time to sit around. It's part of that. I got to be doing stuff. So I think it's connection to nature, connection to self, connection to community.
Well, that's what our retreat is.
Oh, God. I didn't even mean to do that.
I know you didn't, but we our retreat is
it's so
exactly
funny.
what you just said.
Where it comes
connect to yourself, connect to nature, connect to community. And we're really all of that, connecting to nature and connecting to community, is connecting to us, connecting to you.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to feel good always in this moment to you? What does it mean to you right now?
To me, it means knowing that I'm always okay. I'm always okay.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that's always okay.
It's so simple. And I love that. Thank you so much. Because it's kind of what I was just saying. If we are willing to feel to the depths of our own humanity, we will be okay. And it eliminates the fear. And you are okay. And I am okay, because this is literally a dream. Yeah. This experience here doesn't mean that we don't feel it, but that we will survive this dream, and we actually will enjoy this dream, even under all and any circumstances.
Yeah, it's not preconditioned to, I can only enjoy my life if I have this, this, and this.
Yeah, we got to release those attachments.
That's so limiting.
It can't. It's so limiting. No. And I think that surrender to everything, completely surrendering everything. And I've said it before on this podcast, my surrendering of my children, Kira dying, surrendering everything is what brings this peace, and that we will be okay. We will. We already are. We came here okay, and we will be okay. And that's really beautiful. So thank you so much for coming here and sharing your wisdom. I love you. I'm going to share with everybody that's listening. I'll share the Costa Rica stuff down in the show notes. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do that. Follow us on whatever podcast app you're in. And I'll put all the information for Andrea down in the show notes too. And yeah, listen to that last episode. Actually, listen to it again. It's so high vibe. When I listened to it the first time, my internet was breaking. You know, it was the Wi-Fi wasn't working. It was a big, beautiful transmission. So yeah. If you haven't listened to that, listen to that one, and I'm sure you will be on again. I would have you on every week, but you're busy out there. We're splitting us up because you're out there doing so many things in your yes.
Spread the frequency.
Spread the frequency, and everybody else spread the frequency. Ripple out. If you're listening, ripple this out. Just go out there, everything you do, just remember every single place you go, you're spreading this beautiful feel good always energy onto the earth. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time.